Hi, it's Hayden Williams here, and you're listening to the Man in the Mirror podcast. It's a podcast where each week I talk to a male guest about their life, about work, about some of those key items on their bathroom shelf, and we discuss self-image, self-care, and what they really think about the man that stares back at them in the mirror. This week, I'm delighted to tell you I'm joined by the founder of BDK Parfums, David Benedek. Now, I was lucky enough to go to an event in Harrods where BDK were launching a brand new fragrance called Vanille Leather. I got the chance to hear David speak at the event, along with master perfumer Dominique Ropion. So that was incredible. But I was also lucky enough to get to spend some time with David and ask him some questions for the podcast. So BDK was founded in 2016, so it's still quite a young brand, but they now have 17 fragrances, I think, with Vanille Leather being the latest one. You may know some of their fragrances such as Gui Chanel, Velvet Tonka, Villa Neroli. They've got some beautiful fragrances, always the finest ingredients, a very modern style of French perfumery. And I think in some ways, and you'll hear this more from David when we speak, but it feels like the fragrances are a sort of love letter to France. He talks about, using the environment around him as a inspiration for his fragrances. Really grateful to David. I really enjoyed spending some time with him. So I hope you enjoy it. It's David Benedek, who is the founder of BDK Parfums, talking to me, Hayden Williams, on the Man in the Mirror podcast. Let's go. Welcome to a very special episode of Man in the Mirror. It's Hayden here, and I'm in the basement of Harrods with David Benedek, who is the founder of BDK Parfums. Hi, David. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm very well, thank you. I was just at the presentation hearing all about the new fragrance, so it was fascinating to hear you talk with Dominique, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast this morning.
My pleasure.
How long are you in London? Just for a few days?
Oh, I arrived yesterday night.
Yeah.
Had a nice dinner, and today here I am.
So there was a press event this morning, and then is there another event for consumers this afternoon?
True. Yeah. There's one. Yeah.
You're here to talk about. You're here in London to talk about Vanille Leather, which is the new fragrance. So
Yes.
Which you're doing with Dominique Ropion, who's a master. If people don't know, is a master perfumer. So it's it'd be great if you just tell me a bit about the new fragrance and what it adds to the BDK range.
For sure, So just to let you know, Harrods was one of my first partner when I launched BDK.
Was it?
Yeah, 7 years ago. Yeah. They really trust in BDK Parfum. And that's why I had this very special ritual to launch exclusive fragrances with them.
So this will be, Vanille Leather will be here for sort of 5 or 6 months?
6 months.
6 months exclusive,
Yeah. And so Vanille Leather is the story of a new way to approach vanilla in perfumery. And with Dominique, we wanted to work around a beautiful vanilla, but not something too gourmand, something a bit leathery, but not too animalistic also at the same time. So that's why Vanille Leather is a very singular perfume, I would say.
It's beautiful. And I've been smelling it on my wrist all morning. And I don't tend to wear vanillas that are too kind of sweet and nutty and gourmandy, but this has a real sophistication to it and a real kind of skin, as you say, it's kind of a good skin scent. It's beautiful.
Not true, because there are so many ways to explore vanilla in perfumery, but here what we do is we explore like the absolute vanilla from Madagascar, so a beautiful quality of vanilla. Yeah. But we have worked around also the leathery notes that you have already in the vanilla.
Right.
So that's why the name of the perfume is Vanille Leather, just to make the people understand that it's a vanilla perfume surrounded by leathery, soft leathery notes, I would say.
And I think obviously, these days for many fragrance brands, we talk a bit less about things being, for men or women, but I would certainly say for the listeners of Man in the Mirror, who are predominantly male, this is a fragrance that I would, gladly wear, and there's nothing. It doesn't have it doesn't feel particularly feminine. It feels very sort of unisex.
Yeah, that is completely unisex.
Yeah.
Actually, all my perfume at BDK are unisex. Yeah. And I always let the customer choose either it's for men or for women. It really depends on their interpretation of the perfume.
And their own tastes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it'd be great to go back to the beginning, actually. I think, your story is so fascinating. And And I wonder what your sort of first experience of fragrance was. I think your grandparents were involved in the industry, weren't they?
Yes. Actually, my family from my father's side came to France in the 50s.
Okay.
Yeah, after the Second War.
From Romania.
From Romania.
Yeah.
At that time, it was Transylvania.
Right.
So it was really the border between Hungary and Romania.
Okay.
So that's why they speak Hungarian, not Romanian.
Right.
And so actually they opened a perfumery shop in 1959 in Paris.
And was that something they'd done back home?
No, not at all. It was very new.
Right.
Yeah, it was very new because at the basis, my grandfather used to be a lawyer.
Did he?
But he couldn't be a lawyer in France. So he had to search for something else.
Why do you think he chose to sell perfumes?
Because my grandmother, she started to become an esthetician.
Right.
So all her customers were Hungarian ladies living in Paris.
Yeah.
So that's how she built her clientele.
Right.
And at that time, there were many very famous perfumes called like Je Reviens from Worth. And so she asked my grandfather to ask her the perfume. And that's how my grandfather had the idea to open a perfumery shop. Yeah.
And is it still there now?
It's still there now. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. And now my parents take care of the shop. So I was lucky enough to grow up surrounded by perfume. And this is how my love for perfume came.
But you didn't take a kind of straightforward route straight into the family business, as it were? Because you studied economics, didn't you?
Yes, I studied after my French baccalaureate. I studied economics, and then I did a business school, and I did my master degree at French Institute of Fashion, where I took the perfumery class during 1 year.
Right.
So I was trained by the team of Givaudan to know the raw materials and to be able to write my own formula. So I'm not a perfumer. Let's say that I know quite well the main raw materials in the perfumery.
Yeah.
So that I am able to write my formula with the perfumer.
I seem to find that quite often when I talk to the brand founders. I mean, you absolutely need the knowledge and the fundamentals, but there's always that great kind of partnership and relationship with a perfumer, because it's a very specific and technical job, isn't it?
Yeah.
But as I guess as the person that owns the brand, you have the initial idea of what you need, and
yes, but at the end, this idea is shared with the perfumer.
Yeah.
And concerning my approach of perfume, is really together that we are going in a specific vision or a specific approach. Sometimes I had an idea in mind, and then talking with the perfumer, I go to something a bit different that I imagined at the beginning. And on the contrary, sometimes the perfumer gives the impulsion and gives the first start, let's say. And then together we go to something.
And you develop from there. And so when you were studying economics, did you think you'd always end up in fragrance somehow? Was that always the idea, or
no,
you're not sure?
No, not because I didn't want to, but because I think I couldn't do it. At that time, you have to take back the context, but at that time it was like 15 years ago. We didn't talk as we talk now about niche perfume,
Right.
So I thought at that time that it was maybe too even if I love perfume, I always imagined scents since I'm a teenager. I thought at that time that I couldn't be able to make it because I thought there was space only for the big brands that we all know, and
it felt too enormous.
Yeah, and for which I have a lot of respect,
Yeah.
But it's true that when the journalists and the people start to talk, and the customers start to talk about alternative perfumery, I saw that there was maybe an opportunity, and I went directly I did my best to create my own brand at that time. Yeah.
And that's a big, I mean, the way you describe it, it seems like quite a straightforward process, but that's a massive undertaking, isn't it? You're still a relatively young man, if you don't mind me saying, but to have the sort of confidence and the wherewithal to say, I'm not just going to work for Chanel or Dior or someone else, that I want to do my own brand, that takes a real courage and a conviction, I suppose.
Yeah, I would say maybe I was more courageous than confident.
But that's youth as well, isn't it? You have the kind of the courage of youth.
Yeah, because I thought at that time that I had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Except some money a little bit, to be very honest.
Yeah.
But I thought that if I didn't do it, I would be very sad, And my dream was to create perfume and scents. And I did it. I was lucky enough to be able to meet the right distributors and the right retailers in the world who believed in my project.
Yeah.
And here we are 7 years after, and I'm very proud, you know?
But it's like you almost need the stars to align and you know, allow.
There's always some luck in the process for sure, but it's also a lot of hard work.
Of course.
Yeah, it's something, you know, when I wake up, I think about perfume. When I go to sleep, I think about perfume. It's really part of my life now.
Yeah.
So Thank
God you found it.
Yes. And I don't see any boundaries between creating perfume and my private life. It's part of me, finally.
Yeah. And do you ever think about if it hadn't have been perfume? I mean, it sounds like it always would have been because it's something that's so part of you. But if you ever allow yourself to think about an alternative career, what do you think you would have ended up doing?
Maybe it would have the architecture.
Okay.
Yeah, because I love spaces, I love perspectives, and I love textures also, and raw materials. So I would maybe go in that direction if I didn't do perfume.
And there's some similarities there as well, I think, with structure, isn't there?
Exactly.
How things are put together.
Exactly. When you work around a formula, you always think about structure, olfactory structure, and yes, for sure, there's something in common between architecture and perfume.
We talked about it a bit in the presentation this morning, but I wonder, do you think BDK has a sort of house style or what do you think if people approach the counter at a store, what do you think BDK is about that's different to some other brands, maybe?
Yeah, I think BDK in a very humble way, but I think that BDK is all about sensuality. Yeah. And this is the main theme that I like to explore in my perfume. I always thought that people wanted to wear perfume to feel even more sensual and desirable. And this is a theme that I like to speak about. That's why in all my approach of my perfume, I'm looking for something. I want to see how the perfume can match with the skin. The sensuality you can provide with a perfume is something that attracts me a lot.
And I love what you said. I think, it's about, I don't sense with BDK that it's about creating the strangest, most, abstract. No. I think it's you want it, from my understanding, you want it to be wearable and make people feel great and enhance the skin rather.
I told you, like, for me, perfume designer is like a fashion designer. You know that your customer are looking for something different, for something creative, but at the end they want to wear it, and they want to understand the creation. And I think in perfume it's exactly the same. You need to find the right balance between creativity and the fact that you can wear the perfume in the streets or at the office or at your place.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a place for the avant-garde and almost like the equivalent of the catwalk where it's future forward and something that's kind of crazy, but ultimately, you have a business and you want to sell perfume.
Yes, but you have to, as a designer, I have to catch l'air du temps. L'air du temps. I don't know if you
the feeling of the time.
Yes, exactly. You need to feel what people need, and this is what I try to do with BDK.
Yeah, well, and I think you've done such a beautiful job of it. And for me, I think it's the very essence of modern French perfumery. And it's, if people haven't experienced it, I think if you get to go to a store and smell some of the range, it's the very finest ingredients. And David uses some of the best perfumers there are in the industry, including Dominique Ropion, who's just done Vanille Leather. Look, we'll come back and talk a little bit more about BDK and the range, but as you know, on Man in the Mirror, I like to talk to my guest about their bathroom essentials and some of the key items they use in maybe their morning or evening routines, just because I'm nosy for a start, but I think it's great to get an insight into what the hero items on someone's bathroom shelf is. And I think it's, in talking to people, particularly from fragrance, there's so much crossover. I fell in love with perfume, and then it made me more curious about, I want a really nice shower gel, or what should I put on my skin, and shaving creams and all these things. And suddenly my taste has got very expensive in all these other areas. So yeah, it's a curiosity to chat to to other people about their bathroom shelf. So I wonder, in your morning routine, David, have you got a certain routine, certain number of steps, things that you use?
Yeah. First of all, I shower twice.
Do you?
Yeah, I need it, not to feel cleaner, but because I need for my mind to feel fresh on the morning,
Sort of cleansed and
yes.
So once in the morning and evening.
And before to sleep, to feel peaceful before to sleep. I don't know. Okay. Water makes me very peaceful.
Yeah.
And for me, it's essential to shower twice, but this is a personal thing. But I like to clean my face first with a cleaning foam. Usually I use one from La Mer.
Okay.
Yeah, which is really good because it's very natural.
Yeah.
I have quite a dry skin. Face skin.
Yeah.
So this one from La Mer is not doesn't
dry your skin.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So then, when I get out, I moisturize my skin with Emulsion Ecologique from Sisley.
Okay.
I love this product because it doesn't smell too much.
Right.
And the texture is not too thick.
So it's quite a light moisturizer.
But it's not too. It's quite light, let's say, but it's not sticky.
Right.
And I really like this. And I don't put any cream on after. It's just this moisturizing, which is for me enough.
Yeah.
And then I like. And sometimes I put more at the night before going to sleep. I put an eye serum for my eye. I start to have some wrinkles.
I don't know.
So there are a few that I really like, but one that I really like is the ANR Advanced Night Repair eye serum that I put from Estée Lauder.
Okay,
which is very good, timeless, and it does the job.
Yeah. And in terms of shaving and grooming, you have a good amount of stubble there. Do you kind of trim that every few days?
I don't do it myself. I go to the barber.
Do you?
Yeah, twice a month.
Yeah.
Because, I don't have long hair. I have quite short hair, let's say, but I like them to be quite, how you say when it's
sort of a neat line.
Yes. So I like it. So I go to my barber twice a month.
Yeah.
And it's also time for myself.
It's really relaxing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really relaxing. When you work a lot, you allow yourself to go to the barber, and you just have time for you during 1 hour, and it's good.
I sometimes fall asleep when I'm at the barber. I just find it really nice.
I often fall asleep.
So do you go get a haircut and beard? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in terms of the beard at other times, do you ever put anything in it? Or?
No, I don't. Yeah. No, I know that a lot of men put some oil.
Yes, beard oil or something.
Yeah, but I don't use it. No.
Right. And in terms of hair products, do you have anything particular you like to style?
Yeah, when I was even younger, I used to put a lot of wax in my hair to be always
kind of like a kind of slick look. Yeah,
exactly. But now I'm going for something more natural. So I just put a spray of rose.
Okay.
And it's a bit salty, and there's some rose essential.
So there's some sea salt in there, is it? Yeah.
Exactly. And it brings some texture to my hair and some volume that I like. Yeah.
Lovely. And then I guess we get to the good stuff. And I suppose it's very difficult for you because I talk to people about fragrance and whether they have a signature scent or more of a fragrance wardrobe. But I guess for you, because it's a work thing, do you allow yourself to wear one and then take it off when you go to work? How does it work with fragrance, or do you not put any on because you're working with it?
Honestly, now that I'm really always working around perfume, I always wear my trials at the laboratory. So when I'm working around the perfume, I like to wear the different version I'm making to see if it fits well with the skin, if it's long lasting. So usually I wear. The perfume I wear the most are the one that I will launch in maybe 1 or 2 years,
Right.
Yeah.
So you're just testing it yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because now that I have 17 perfume at BDK, I feel like when I launch one, it's for the people. It's not for me.
Yeah.
As I will create something for my customer, but not especially for me.
Yeah.
And this is something new that I didn't feel before.
I like that though. I mean, it's almost probably like a lot of art forms that once it's done and once it's complete as it can be, that you sort of give it to the world, and it, belongs to people.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, my creation at BDK belongs to people, not especially for me.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's probably, again, running a business, that's probably a good frame of mind to have anyway, because if we just made products for ourselves, that can sometimes feel more like a sort of small cottage industry.
Sure.
You have to be sort of commercial about it, I suppose.
And also you have to touch people,
Yeah.
And what is good, what I like in my brand at BDK is that I'm someone who's really curious, and you can find really different visions of perfumery, but in a very harmonious way. That's why I like woody notes, I like florals, I like musky notes. You can find all this kind of perfume at BDK, but I keep the same signature in all what I do.
Yeah.
But for me, BDK is a bit universal.
I think so. We should talk about I know it feels silly sometimes to talk about the bottles and the aesthetic of it, but I always love when I see the BDK bottles in store, because they're those beautiful caps. I think it's just such a classy look, and it feels, the bottle feels really solid and consequential. But there's a sort of story behind the cap, isn't there, Dave?
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks for asking this question. Actually, the bottle itself, I call it le flacon Grand Palais.
Right.
Because Le Grand Palais is a place, it's a monument in France, in Paris, where you have many beautiful art exhibitions, fashion show. It's located in Champs-Élysées.
Right.
And to create my cap, I was really inspired by the roof of Le Grand Palais and the shape of the roof. And that's why when you see the roof of Le Grand Palais in my cap, it's really the same lines and the same curves. And I really like this idea.
It feels like, again, with some of the different fragrances in the BDK range, there's a real love affair with France, and there's all references to different places in the country, and whether it's the south of France and the citruses or the
because at the end I'm a French guy, so I like to speak about what I know. I would not allow myself to speak about something I haven't went to or I didn't know, So
you wouldn't sort of, I want to do a fragrance all about London or something like that.
I will not be able to. I will not be able to do it,
Yeah,
because it's not some. I love London. I love the world. I love the cultures, but I need to feel very connected to my creation.
Yeah.
And that's why I like to talk about Paris. I like to talk about the south of France.
Yeah.
I like to talk about the dynamic, the energy of the city, because I'm Parisian. But that's it.
And I think that the people that get to experience your fragrances can feel that connection and love for the country. It's definitely there. We met Dominique Ropion in the session this morning, and I'm always really interested in that relationship between brand founder and perfumer. If the very first conversation or the idea when you talk to a perfumer, I guess will come from you, and you go to a fragrance house or a perfumer, because often we've talked about your relationship with France and a certain idea. Do you find it a difficult thing to sort of translate what's in your head and your heart to someone else? I guess that's part of the challenge, right?
Yeah, that's part of the challenge, but you have many ways to make it, You can talk about, for example, I like to associate colors with raw materials. When I was younger, I did a lot of paintings, abstract paintings.
Did you?
Yeah.
Do you like art?
I love art.
Do you?
Yeah, I love art. And for me, I associate textures and colors to raw materials, actually. So sometimes when I want to talk about a new fragrance, I talk about colors and textures and then raw materials.
Right.
Sometimes it's the contrary, It really depends. And sometimes the impulsion, the starts come from the perfumer. That's what happened with Vanille Leather. There was this beautiful vanilla core that I then worked around with Dominique, and it became what it is today, But the first start came from Dominique Ropion and not me directly.
Yeah.
And it's also totally fair to speak about it like that because it's the truth.
Yeah. And it must be, for a relatively young brand and BDK, it must be a real thrill to get to work with some of these legends of the industry.
For sure. Yeah. And I'm super, super proud, super happy, and super surprised about how humble Dominique is, He
seems that way. Seems like a pretty...
But, at the very beginning, when I first met him, I was so intimidated by...
Were you?
Yeah, for sure. Because, I remember myself when I was 26 and I started with BDK, it was kind of my dreams to work with such renowned perfumer. And now it's the case today. So I'm very, very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a congratulations on the new fragrance. It's such a
Thank you.
it's a real triumph, and people should go and check it out. Something else in the podcast, I like to ask the guests about sort of self-image and what they think about when they look in the mirror. So I wonder, when you're doing your morning routine, how do you feel about your appearance as you look in the mirror? I mean, you're in your 30s, David, right?
Yeah, so literally. Yeah.
So still a young man. I mean, I guess it's a question that can be about the sort of appearance and the superficial, or maybe, some people take it kind of deeper in terms of how they feel. But, are you comfortable with your look and your appearance and how you see yourself?
That's a very nice question.
It's
actually.
a big thing.
Yeah, it's a big question. First of all, I try, when I look myself in the mirror, I'm always asking myself if I'm proud and happy about who I am today. This is the main thing. And when I was a student at French Institute of Fashion, one of the people I met was Pierre Berger.
Right.
The husband of Yves Saint Laurent.
Okay.
And he gave me a very nice advice. He told me, because we were lucky enough to be surrounded by this kind of people at my school.
Wow.
And he told me, whatever you will do in your life, when you look yourself in the mirror, be sure to be proud of who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that it's super important. It's super important to be proud about who you are and to be sure that you act following your values,
Yeah.
And this is something I try to do every day. This is for the more psychological part of myself. But then, speaking about the physical aspect, there's some morning I feel myself nice and cute. There's some morning that I feel very tired and a bit, not so in shape. It really depends, It depends about also my personal life. Sometimes I'm very happy. Sometimes it can be, I can be sad a little bit for some reason. It depends,
And I think it would probably be strange if it was the same every day. I mean, we're always, in different moods or in different states of happiness or.
True. And there are some days that I feel confident with myself.
Yeah.
There are some other days that I feel not at all confident. It really depends. I would not be able to give you the same answer every day,
And I wouldn't expect you to.
Yeah.
But you strike me as someone that enjoys style and I love this suit's
thank you.
fantastic. I think it's really great.
Thank you.
But do you enjoy playing around with fashion?
Yes, I love fashion.
Do you?
Yeah, I love fashion since I'm very, very young.
Yeah.
But you know what? I love fashion for men and I love fashion for women.
Yeah.
Since ever, I was always attracted to fashion. And for myself, I like to be, I'm a bit picky with what I choose.
Have you found, do you think you sort of found a signature kind of style in suiting or shirts, or do you kind of play around?
Kind of. I don't like, it's personal what I'm going to say, but I don't like logo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a logo person, so I like to be dressed casual chic. Sometimes I wear suits, sometimes I wear a nice t-shirt with nice shoes, and it's enough.
Would you go to the BDK office in jeans and a t-shirt?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, for sure. It depends. Yeah. It depends about my meetings I have during the day, who I'm going to meet, and usually, when I dress up for myself, but I dress up also to show respect for people.
Right.
It's also,
that's nice.
Yeah, it's also both, but you can show respect in a very casual way.
Yeah.
It really depends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it seems there's a theme with people that, are interested in the arts, and music and fashion. It would be quite strange if you were really interested in perfume but had no interest in music, art, fashion. It's all connected, right?
It's all connected, and I like fashion, I like music,
and beautiful
like
things.
But you know what? More than everything, I like life.
Yeah.
And all these subjects belongs to life, and I like to explore as someone who is really curious. So yeah, it makes sense.
I think so, and I've only been involved in fragrance for a few years, but I've been really struck by, like many art forms, it's all about connections and partnerships. And I've met so many amazing people, and you see that it can't be one person's idea on their own, that you have to be collaborative and open.
True.
And yeah,
I always tell my team, because now in the company we are 14.
Yeah,
which is quite a lot.
And that's a responsibility.
Yeah, that's a real responsibility.
Yeah.
But what I like at BDK is that we are all passionate, and passion drives us so much. So
and then it doesn't feel like work so much.
Exactly, and we are all very young and passionate. There's a very good energy in the office. But what I wanted to say is that we all like feel very dedicated to what we do, and this is very important.
Yeah. Well, finally, David, I ask every guest what are the things that make them happy. So I wonder. I mean, some of this feel like we've covered anyway, but I wonder what makes you happy.
What makes me happy? Wow. Love makes me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you in love?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
But love makes me happy.
Yeah.
My family, my friends, actually people makes me happy.
Yeah.
More than anything else. I like what I do. When I wake up every morning and I go to the office, it makes me happy. Being healthy, it makes me happy.
Yeah.
Actually, simple things make me happy more than anything else.
And how do you feel about, I guess, one of the benefits, I imagine, of having a brand like BDK is that, you get to travel the world and do things like this, come to London, go to other countries. Do you enjoy that aspect of talking about the brand and being the spokesperson?
Yeah, I love, for sure. Yeah. And I feel so lucky, because I think that I reach a stage that I'm allowed and I'm able to meet great people that understand my creation and my approach. And for me, it's such a pleasure to explain what I do and to have an audience that is really interested in what I'm doing. It's I think all the designers are looking for that, to explain what we do and that what we are doing is well received by the people.
Yeah.
And this is a great luck I have in my life.
It's funny, isn't it, with fragrance? I always think, I love it when we have conversations like this or go to an event where you hear the stories and the narratives of how a fragrance comes to be. But at the same time, there's an amazing thing with fragrance that if you don't know any of it, if you just go into a store and spray it, it can still have a magic.
Yeah.
And there's almost a kind of, an instant beauty and a connection that you can have with a fragrance. You don't have to know the backstory, but I love that. I love the stories behind it too.
No, but that's completely true. And creations don't have to be too much explained sometimes.
Art, you don't have to always explain art.
Exactly. And actually, if we smell the same perfume, I'm sure we'll have a different interpretation of it. And this is what is cool. Because following all what we have lived and what we have experienced in our lives, we don't have always the same interpretation of things.
Yeah, and we bring those things to our experience.
And that's what makes everyone unique, finally.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Yeah. Well, David, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. It was great to hear you talk with Dominique earlier and to find out a bit more about you and BDK and Vanille Leather, which is out now in Harrods for a few more months and then will be on general release later in the year. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Lovely to see you in London.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that chat with David. He was such a delight, and I was really grateful that he made some time in his busy schedule when he was launching Vanille Leather here in London this week. I'm always struck when I meet founders of brands. It's such a responsible role, but it's always really interesting how they tend to be people that are alert to all of the arts and always have their eyes open and interest in other areas. So it was really interesting for instance, to hear him say, if he wasn't a perfume brand founder, that he might be an architect. And that doesn't surprise me at all, because I think that there's also very similar disciplines with, how you structure things. And, you can see the similarities, and also that he's interested in fashion and art and all those things, as it seems many people who work in fragrance are. So really enjoyed chatting to David, and I hope you enjoyed listening. If you want to find out more about BDK Parfums, on Instagram, they are BDK Parfums Paris. So it's BDK Parfums, which is PARFUMS Paris. So BDK Parfums Paris on Instagram, and on the web, they're just bdkparfums.com. You can find their whole range of fragrances, including the brand new one that currently is exclusive at Harrods, which is Vanille Leather. Although when David pronounces it in his French accent, so Vanille Leather is much more attractive and sounds much nicer than my sort of clunky English version of it. Anyway, it's Vanille Leather, which is currently in Harrods, and it will be in wider distribution later in the year. So thank you to David. If you want to find out more about Man in the Mirror, you can find me on Instagram at Man in the Mirror Pod, and that's where you'll find information about previous episodes. And I'll tease what's coming up in the future as well. There's a couple more episodes in the current run, and then I'll take a short break for summer. But do check it out, and you can find some previous episodes you may have missed. Thanks, David. Thanks to you, as always, for listening. I really appreciate it, and thanks for your lovely feedback. I'll see you next time on Man in the Mirror. Take care.